I have dedicated 850 hours of my life to sitting in a chair playing a video game where I shoot Vietnamese people during a time before my parents were born. And yes, while some people have 1,000, some have 2, some even have 4,000, in which, Jesus Christ. And I want to share a couple of things that I've learned from playing the game, as well as things that other experienced players have taught me. But I hope this video changes the way you go about certain situations, as well as some interesting things about popular maps that you might not be aware of. But in exchange for this useful information, please repay me with 1 like on the video. It really does help. But anyways, let's get into it. So first thing I want to talk about is some interesting things you might not know about certain maps, and I want to start off with the map Dong Ha. Now, a common thing that I see low-level squad leaders do on the VC team is place their tunnels right in front of the objectives and sometimes slightly in front of the spawn. And the thing about this map is that it has very wide combat zones which can extend beyond certain points, and there are really good spots to place your tunnels on the flanks. However, do plant traps near them, because some people do tend to sweep these areas looking for tunnels, but you've got a lot of concealment. But this allows your squad mates to actually get into a backwards flanking position, and this is especially true on the left side of the map. But there's also a spot on this map where you can run out of the combat area and onto these rocks and get behind your enemies. But moving on to the map of Kuchi, and I owe Anthony for showing me this, there is a spot in Kuchi where you can climb into this bush and be completely concealed. Admittingly, it is very hard to climb up, and the way you do it is basically you have to like sprint into the wall and you have to press space at the exact moment. It takes heaps of practice. I advise you load up an offline map and just fiddle around with it to see how it works best for you. Another thing is, on the last point of Kuchi, the roof doesn't actually offer a lot of protection against fire support. We know that the spooky can penetrate most things, but the artillery and napalm don't actually get blocked by the roof, and this leads to some spectacular kill feeds because all the VC congregate inside because they think that artillery and napalm can't actually hit them, when that's actually false. But leading on to this, on the map Resort, which I'm sure everyone here loves, I'm just joking, but the little roof on the little house or hut, or I don't know what you want to call this, on the last point isn't actually a solid, which means that you quite literally can land a helicopter in the fucking building, and sometimes your blades don't even get damaged, and you could just sit in this little house, and you'd be surprised at how unobservant the VC can be at times. They don't realize that there is a literal helicopter that's in the house, and it's always funny having new players spawn in on my heli, and they're like, what the hell is going on here? Now, moving on to Hue City, and this is a map that I am very peculiar about where I put my tunnels. If you joined my last RS2 livestream, you'll know a lot about that, but there are actually some really good tunnel spots on this map that I just need to show you. And honestly, I recently discovered this one right here because I saw a guy called Cheeky Breaky do it on the Farming Zone servers, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever because this tunnel cannot be detected. I assume the enemies were having the characters tell them, because there's a voice line that your character will say when they see a tunnel, but they couldn't properly see where, and I see so many people just running past me, and I could just spawn in behind them and get plenty of kills. Now, my favorite tunnel spot in the whole entire Rising Storm 2 Vietnam is the one in this area, and if you've watched my other Rising Storm 2 Vietnam tips and tricks videos, you'll know that the M1 Garands that are scattered around Firebase Georgina, those are mine, okay? It is a bannable offense if you use these M1 Garands, and the same goes for using this tunnel spot on Hue City. This is like, it's like a reserved parking spot, if you know what I mean. Just to sort of be clear, I am being sarcastic, I am joking. I'm going through like comments on my other tips and tricks videos, and like I was being blatantly sarcastic. Like, if you use the XM21 suppress, I'm gonna ban you from the server. I'm clearly fucking joking. I don't care what you do or if you take the spot. I'm just taking the piss. But once the C point has been capped, I like to put my tunnels in these corner location because you'd be surprised at how many people don't notice these tunnels. And there's also a nice spot in the corner here, which I call the shit spot, because I first found out about this when I got repeatedly killed by Anthony when I was new to the game, and that's kind of why I call it that, because I'm like, wow, what a bitch puts the tunnel there and camps, and well, I became that bitch. But there's also this spot on the C point where if you're the Americans and you get into this corner location, you can actually throw explosives over the wall to usually the area where the VC congregate on the wall area, you know what I mean, and basically you can throw white phosphorus over the wall. You'd be surprised at how many people like to congregate here and how many kills you can get with it. And I do owe it to Rice for actually showing me this one. But moving on to the map of Saigon and Black April, there is a tunnel that you can go under that will take you right into the palace or government building, whatever you call it. And this is really good because I hate spawning in on the flanks and getting killed repeatedly by the people that are dug out in the windows or on the roof. However, this does mean people can just camp this location, and I've done it myself and I've seen other people do it before as well. But I suppose it's worth a shot when everyone's like focused on falling back and, you know, putting tunnels on the flanks. If you sneak underneath, you can also get out onto other flanking locations. But speaking about tunnels, I explained in my other video where if you're digging a tunnel, you can press the Z key and it cancels the animation. But one thing that I didn't mention is that, let's say I see a tunnel. It's out of the combat zone. I can just throw a grenade at the tunnel and it will actually destroy the tunnel. This is also especially good if you're behind enemy lines and you don't want to waste time on destroying a tunnel. Even if you're getting shot at and you want to destroy the tunnel, just throw a grenade at it, underarm throw it by pressing the middle mouse button. As long as it's right on the tunnel or basically right next to it, it will destroy it. And another good thing is that if you move away from the tunnel, VC will be able to spawn on it, and you also might be able to take out a couple of VC as well as the tunnel. However, you got to be cautious and make sure that there are no teammates nearby. There's no point doing it when you got mates nearby because you're going to end up killing your friends as well, which is stupid. But if there's no one around and you're in a very critical situation, then I advise that you use it. And the last thing about maps that I want to talk about is on Anlao Valley. Now this, I got very upset on this map once because if you know that there's a hill up here and snipers can actually sit up there and have an overview of the whole battlefield. And I thought that I couldn't really counter them too well because there's a combat zone between me and the point. But basically, if you continue to run out of the combat area as the VC, you actually re-enter it on this hill area, which allows you to actually kill people that are hiding on it. And trust me, the snipers are not going to expect one lone guy who has been killed 5 times by snipers, who is extremely upset and angry, to go out of the way to run up here and kill them. Also, one more thing that I forgot to mention, if you're playing as a commander, which you can't do until you're level 25, but if you're calling in something like an artillery, you'll hear the voice lines going off. Basically, if you press the V key or whatever your toggle key to use the voice lines is, if you use it and you say a voice line, it'll actually cancel the commander speaking, you know, oh, we need artillery or we need napalm support.
Spook 6 running short on rounds.
But now I want to talk about spatial awareness and how to avoid tunnel vision, as well as the way I process the game to outsmart my opponents basically. But one thing that I do is sometimes I spectate on maps and I like to analyze the common routes that enemies go along, as well as common hiding spots that they like to get dug into. Because the thing is, there have been times, I remember there's this guy called Fool, who I haven't seen him in a while. He managed to literally hold off a whole flank with the BAR by camping in the bushes, and basically me and a couple of other squad leaders on Firebase on D point, we had our tunnels on the left side and we simply could not get across into the rice fields because he easily picks you off, and he's like so far away and so well concealed that it was very hard for us to actually counter him. And the thing is, he knew that there were going to be people putting tunnels there and that were going to be crossing from left to right. And as a defending player, if you know common routes that enemies take, you're able to post up in strategic locations and basically have a whole flank or a whole location on lockdown. Now, a thing that I do when attacking is I don't just go straight right headfirst into the point, sort of like a human wave offense. And on maps such as like Dongha, Seaside on Hue City, they're going to be able to just get dug in and you're going to get killed over and over again before you can even reach the point. So what I do is I always try to hit the furthest of flanks and just loop around. I know that it can be time consuming, but trust me, it's very helpful if you're able to still stay in the combat zone, get into a flanking position and actually get behind your opponents. I always said in the past that using traps as an attacking team is pointless, and I want to retract that statement, because if I'm able to flank and get onto a point, I might put a couple of traps down, whether it's mine or my punchy trap, which only takes like 2 seconds to do. The defending team, especially if it's the Americans, they're not going to be expecting a trap to be there, because how often do you die to a trap when you're defending or running onto a point? If I'm able to get into a campy position behind the point, obviously within combat area and isn't considered spawn camping or anything, I'll just try and hit the people that are running onto the point, and this can actually slow down the ability for the defending teams to actually get onto the point to recap it. However, I do still need to say that you should PTFO or play the effing objective. But if the enemy team is just defending so well and going headfirst just simply isn't working, try and just sneak around behind them. Now, one thing that I do in terms of movement is zigzag. You don't want to run in a straight line. I remember watching a movie, I can't remember what movie it was. I think it was like a zombie movie. I don't know if it was The Fog. That's not a zombie movie, but it was like a horror movie. And basically, the man is telling a woman, okay, zigzag, and they can't hit you, and then all these people are like zigzagging, and this guy with like a machine gun can't hit them. Don't know what movie it was. I was a kid, but that stuck out to me in video game terms, because if someone's shooting at you, even if it's like a semi-automatic weapon, pump action, bolt action, they're going to have a very hard time actually hitting you. Now, of course, if it's a full auto fucking machine gun, then I mean, can't really counter that. Zigzagging isn't really going to do that much, but I'm actually surprised on how often I'm able to stay alive a lot longer than I thought just by zigzagging. But one advice that I want to give to new players is don't get tunnel vision. Don't go running right into a point or basically running into danger. Just stop for a second, you know, a relatively safe position, and just look forward. Do your hardest to squint into the distance to see, okay, is there any muzzles in the distance that I can identify? Are there any common spots the enemy could be hiding in, such as roofs, balconies, machine gun encampments, or like the little bunkers or pillboxes, whatever you want to call them. Also, check your maps. You'll see that friendlies die on the map for a split second, and basically, oh, lots of friendlies dying in this one location. There was a whole squad going on the left flank, but suddenly they're gone. And I do these types of things to sort of plan out how I want to get onto a point. But look, I'm looking at what other people are saying. Some people say you should Rambo and go very aggressive and be fast. Some people say no, take it slow, don't treat this like Call of Duty. Some people say treat it like Call of Duty. Some people don't. And I'm not gonna say do either. I like to find the middle ground. I like to take things slow at times and plan out how I want to approach a situation. What is the safest way to get onto a point? What is the safest way to get into a flanking position that I like? But yet again, I also want to get lots of kills to sort of push back the enemy. And I find it especially vital to take out those squad leaders. Now, obviously, there's no way to tell if someone's a squad leader unless someone just magically appears right next to them. But usually good squad leaders do tend to camp onto the objectives. But when I do want to go Rambo is when I want to apply pressure onto the enemy. Such as if I want to fight my way to where the enemy VC tunnels are so I can destroy them, basically pushing them further back out of the combat area. But the way I see it is you gotta sort of alternate between the mentalities. You need to know when to be aggressive and play hard and when to play more relaxed and calmer. Usually when I'm defending, I like to take a more relaxed approach, get into a good flanking position, prevent anyone from even getting into good positions. But before I end today's video there, I just want to say a very thank you to the people who've donated on my last couple of streams, especially to Nick Borlas and Isby. I'm very thankful for your donations during stream, and I'm greatly appreciative. Anyways, I'm gonna end today's video there, because if you guys did enjoy, please do consider leaving a like, subscribing, and sharing the video with your friends. Anyways, my name is Tantu, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.